Number 1.
The Bagger 293.
The Bagger 293 is a bucket wheel excavator. It's the size of an ocean liner on land.
It's kind of an abstract type of machine. It actually kind of looks like a small mobile city with a giant buzzsaw attached to the front end.
Bagger 293 is in the Guinness Book of World Records because it's the biggest land-bound machine ever.
This German giant hits the scale at a whopping 31 million pounds. That's equal to the weight of about 2,000 adult elephants, more than 2 professional football fields in length, and as tall as a 30-story building. This monster works in the coal mines of Western Germany.
What sets the 293 apart from the other machines is the sheer size of it. I mean, this machine can produce up to 12 tons of material. It's spitting out 10 mid-sized cars in a second.
The Bagger has 18 massive buckets, all working 24/7 on a wheel 70 feet in diameter. Each bucket can pick up over 15,000 pounds of material in one scoop. These massive diggers remove both the earth above buried coal seams as well as the coal itself. The machine's primary purpose is to mine for coal. Unlike most excavators, though, the Bagger doesn't just dig and load trucks. It has its own unique and economical conveyor belt system.
It is far cheaper to convey material than to truck it. A truck weighs about as much as it carries, whereas a conveyor weighs a lot less in comparison to what it can produce and can carry.
The Bagger 293 feeds miles of conveyor belts at the Hambach mine. From there, the coal is loaded onto trains and shipped to 3 local power stations. The Bagger 293 is powered by 17,000 kilowatts. It draws its juice from the very power plants it fuels with coal. Although this giant extracts enough coal to provide electric energy to several million homes, it's run by a very small team.
On this excavator, only 5 people are working, and with these 5 people, in 3 shifts, that means 15 people around the clock, we produce this high capacity.
This may be a small crew, but they also have to be fit. The Bagger has more than 2,000 steps and about a half mile of walkways up to a height of 230 feet. It's not unusual for the team to walk over 6 miles during a shift.
I think there are not that many
On to a mine elsewhere. However, their maximum speed is less than half a mile per hour. A 13-mile trip can take about 3 weeks because of the challenges of crossing roads and avoiding power lines, and the slow speed of the machine. Still, it's a champion of diggers.
bucket wheel excavator is, under certain conditions, the most productive way to extract huge masses of material.
That massive digging comes at a price. The Bagger emits large amounts of very fine dust into the atmosphere. To dampen down these particles, workers keep the Bagger and the surrounding areas wet. The coal that's produced presents its own environmental issues too. Each ton of coal burned in a power plant releases 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This contributes to global warming. Of all the fossil fuels, coal puts out the most carbon dioxide. The size and the productivity of the 293 make it the king of the diggers in terms of mass.
Number 2.
For more than 40 years, the twin crawler transporters at NASA's Kennedy Space Center have slowly traveled the gravel track between the massive Vehicle Assembly Building and the 2 launch pads at Launch Complex 39. These mammoth beasts that first carried all the Apollo Saturn V rockets have since borne every space shuttle on the last earthbound leg of their journeys to space. The technology used to build these huge, reliable crawlers capable of such Herculean tasks was deeply rooted in a region where giant machines excavated and extracted veins of coal. Engineers with the Marion Power Shovel Company of Marion, Ohio, adapted the technology in the early 1960s, and their know-how has stood the test of time.
You know, one of the decisions that they had to make back then for Apollo was how to get the vehicle out to the pad, and they looked at rail and they looked at the barge, and both of those had issues, and then they finally settled on the crawler. And those guys that designed and built this thing really did a great job. It's a testament to the design and how they put it together that, you know, 50 years later, this thing is still, hauling 12 million pounds around.
When they built the crawler, they overbuilt it. And that's a great thing because it's able to last all these years. I think it's a great machine. I think it could last for another 50 years if it needed to. It's capable, of course, moving the shuttle, all of its parts, and the mobile launch platform. We're talking about a 12 million pounds. The vehicle itself being 6 million, you have about 18 million pounds rolling down the road.
And as might be imagined, it takes incredible power to move that mass.
All right, this is one of two 2,750 horsepower, 16-cylinder Alco diesel engines. On the other end of these are two 1,000 kilowatt DC generators. So this engine and one just like it on the other end of the crawler, it's what makes us move. These engines have about 4,000 hours on them or so. So for a 45-year-old, really a 50-year-old engine, they're like brand new. Of course, we've maintained these engines, over the years very well. So these engines will go for another 50 years.
So with all that weight in motion, what's it like to drive a crawler?
Steering wheel's about the size of a go-kart racer, but it's all electronic. It's all, it's fly-by-wire, so to speak. It's kind of funny. You go up there and that little steering wheel's there, but that steering wheel turns some big cylinders. It moves some big trucks. So it is impressive.
One of the things about driving the crawler is you have to plan ahead, because obviously it doesn't turn on a dime. So you have to really be on your game, and you have to be thinking ahead about where you want to be 1, 2, 3 minutes ahead of time.
The critical nature of the long rollout to the launch pad is not lost on those who operate this huge piece of machinery.
It's very important that all of our systems function properly, safely, from the time we leave the safety of the vehicle assembly building until we get out to the launch pad. So during that 6 hours or so where we're out on the crawler way, it's just us, my team and the crawler, getting the vehicle out to the pad, and it's a critical time.
With the end of the Space Shuttle program in sight, soon there will be no more shuttle stacks to ferry to the launch pad. But to those who work on them, the trusty crawlers seem fully capable of moving future launch vehicles if called upon.
Seeing the shuttle program come to an end will be a sad day for us. The crawler actually has gone through Apollo and shuttle, so it's been around for quite a long time, 40 years. And we'd like to see it maybe carry on to another program if they give us the capability. The crawler's ready. The crawler's ready to go. It can take on, whatever you throw at it.
Number 3.
What is 2 stories tall, can lift the weight of 40 cars over its head, and weighs more than a 737? The Letourneau L2350, the largest front-end loader in the world. The Letourneau Company of Longview, Texas builds these giants to load coal, gold and copper ore, and other minerals into equally giant trucks.
Well, this is a 53 cubic yard rock bucket. Again, the machine has a total hoist capacity of 80 tons. To put this in perspective, the 53 cubic yard capacity is equivalent to about 5 normal dump trucks that you might see going up and down the road.
Wheel loaders are relatively young in the excavator family. In the 1920s, several implement manufacturers began building scoop attachments that fitted to the front of farm tractors. It wasn't until after World War II that manufacturers began making special purpose loaders. Since then, they've grown up. The Letourneau Company has a long history building front-end loaders. But this is the very first L2350 to roll off the assembly line. Near the plant, there's a test site where the machine is put through its paces.
The need for the 2350 was born from the need to load bigger trucks. The dump trucks are getting bigger and bigger. If you can move more dirt with less people, that's the name of the game.
Engineers worked for 2 years to design the 2350. Their goal was to build a machine capable of lifting 50% more than its predecessor.
The dilemma that we faced were tires. There just was not a tire big enough. So we partnered with the engineers at Firestone to develop the world's largest tire. The tires are 13 feet tall, they're over 5 feet wide, and they're truly the biggest pieces of rubber that you'll see.
Letourneau builds many of the parts for the 2350 at their Longview plant. The company even operates a steel mill.
That's what we have here is an L2350 frame. Now this is very early in the assembly process, so it's fairly bare. But what we have back here at the very end is the radiator. Now this radiator has a capacity of about 150 gallons of coolant.
Impressed? Check out what's under the hood.
Well, what we have here is an example of a very large 16-cylinder diesel engine. Now this one's turbocharged and after-cooled. It produces about 2,300 horsepower, and when it's in operation in our loader, it's going to consume fuel at the rate of about 50 gallons per hour.
The diesel engine turns a generator which actually supplies power to the 4 electric traction motors, providing